And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Ahoy, Buccaneers fans. Welcome to another electrifying episode of RBLR Bucs. I'm Usab, your co-host, and we are riding high after an absolute banger of a win against the Raiders. It was a fight, but this week it's going to hit a little different. We're turning our eyes west to the City of Angels because Sunday at 4:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's the Buccaneers versus the Los Angeles Chargers. And trust me, this is not going to be the same vibe as last week. But before we dive into it all, I want to hear from you, the heartbeat of Bucs Nation. Whether you're a first-time listener or a day one fan, we want you to drop your thoughts, your hot takes, even your rants in the comments. You got a gripe about the offense? Let us know. Bold prediction for Sunday? Let it all out. All right, as I mentioned last week, think of us as your football counselors, all right? No judgment, just some football therapy, baby. But before we get into this, I got to introduce the squad. I'll tell you this, RBLR is a team, and we're kind of special. So I want to give a shout-out to our special teams. And to my right, I'll let the guys decide who's who. But to my right, we got the Jack Browning, all right, of the podcast. He's ready to bring in the heat and take this show to the next level. Please welcome the one and only Mr. Zach Blaine. How are you?
Pretty good, brother. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well.
So good deal. I'd love to hear it, bro.
Bucs been looking good so far, but day by day as we get closer, I'm starting to get somewhat nervous about this game, especially the way the Chiefs-Chargers game had turned out to be. So should be interesting though. But no.
I mean, that Raiders Chiefs game was pretty close too, though.
Yeah, that Buccaneers-Panthers game was close though too.
Fair. That's real fair.
A whole lot of close games in the NFL, I'll tell you that. But last but not least, the final puzzle piece of this iconic trio. I guess he is the Chase McLaughlin of this podcast, and I guess I'll be Evan Deckers. To my left, Mr. Carter Brantley. Carter, what's the good word, man?
Oh man, yeah, just chilling. I hate that you're the long snapper, right? That's what you've labeled yourself as, Mr. Tree.
Hey man, the play don't start without the long snapper. The podcast don't start without me. Yeah.
That's a great
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too. That's a good.
I just thought about that on the spot, but
there you go. Yeah, I mean, like you said, the Bucs and the Raiders had a little game this past weekend. The Bucs came out on top, 28-13. So it's exciting stuff. The Bucs are in first place in the NFC South. I mean, my goodness. So we'll talk about that a little bit as the show progresses. But before we get into it, if you're new with us and if you haven't tuned in before, definitely hit that like and subscribe button if you like what you hear, or if you want to continue liking what you're hearing, because we're coming out with new episodes every week, even through the off season. I know we're in the middle of the regular season. Who cares about the off season? But yeah, definitely hit that like and subscribe button. We'd really appreciate it. But before we get into the actual Raiders game itself, I would like to say that the Bucs are in the first place, the NFC South. The Falcons took that L this past weekend. They played the Vikings. Sam Darnold lit them up. It was fantastic to watch. So, got to keep our listeners informed because Bucs games are important, but right now, so are Falcons games. They're almost just as important as the Bucs games. So that was a little news tidbit to throw in. But this 13-point, game that they allowed to the Raiders, I mean, that's a pretty solid performance from this defense. I wanted to hear y'all's thoughts on the Bucs defensive performance, how much stock you put into it, because they were facing Aiden O'Connell and then Desmond Ridder. Mr. Tariq, I'll start with you, man. What were your thoughts on this Bucs defensive performance? Were you impressed?
Yeah, I was impressed. Was it perfect? Of course not. I feel like, especially for the the middle part of the game, I feel like it just kind of got very bland. We had just a bunch of kind of ups and downs. We had a couple good plays, but just a lot of missed tackling. I feel like Jacoby Myers got a couple good plays in just because of that. I feel like, we can always do better, but the defense stepped it up big time, especially towards the end when it mattered the most. I feel like that's something, we always think about. Oh, well, the Buccaneers always start out so hot and then somehow, they find a way to kind of, shit the bed towards the end of the game. So, that was really nice to see, though. And overall, I think it's a whole team effort. And yeah, I'll leave it at that, though. So yeah, I would say I'm impressed. I'm happy with what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned at the beginning of the show, there are a lot of close games in the NFL. There aren't really, it's the salary cap league, so there's not going to be any, blowouts. It's not Alabama against USF or anything like that. Sorry, I'm wearing a USF shirt. Go Bulls! Please don't hate me. But no, yeah, there aren't going to be too many blowouts. So for a defense, even against the Raiders, even against Aiden O'Connell and Brock Bowers, because Brock Bowers is an elite tight end, and they held him down. So yeah, I'm with you. It was a nice performance, but yeah, the missed tackles, they've been an issue all year. They're one of the worst graded teams according to PFF based on tackling. So it's not really a surprise to see them continue to struggle in that area, even against the Raiders, because they just don't have. They had Levante David and like who else do they have at linebacker? It's just been a tough year for that group. But Mr. Blaine, how about you, man? You're usually the half glass empty kind of guy when it comes to the defense. So lay it on us. Tell us why we shouldn't believe anything.
Did we really stop Brock Bowers, or did they just not really throw him the ball that often?
Well, they didn't throw him the ball that often because he was getting covered well.
Probably for a reason, yeah.
Yeah, sure. We'll call it that.
I mean, who else? Because Jacoby Myers is their other wide receiver. He's fine. But, like, Brock Bowers is getting the ball, like, force-fed to him throughout the year. He's been –
and so I agree. I agree 100%. And I do think that scheme had something to do with it. But I think he had, one target, or it may have just been one catch in the first half. They didn't really start using him until the last drive when they were already down 2 touchdowns. So, I don't know how much I'm gonna go with we stopped him as much as they just tried a different game plan and it clearly didn't work out. I mean, nothing is really working out for him the last two and a half months of football, but that's hearsay. I'm cautionally optimistic about the defense because we also lost Antoine Winfield for it looks like multiple weeks. So it's hard for me to be positive. I know that Antoine Winfield hasn't had his greatest season so far, but he is still the best safety we have on the team.
Yeah, he's a team captain.
Yeah. So that's going to hurt. Merriweather played a very good game, and I actually really enjoyed watching him.
Yeah.
It almost makes me feel like he should have been our second safety from the beginning, but you didn't hear that from me.
Okay.
But no, Merriweather has looked impressive, and I think that it's going to be interesting to see how we try to replace him at the next couple of games with all the injuries we have. Before we could have been like, oh, you move somebody over, put somebody else in, we're good. Now I don't even know another safety that can go back there other than Izzian because he's technically played safety before.
Right. I mean, I think a big guy that's had a great season, honestly, so far, Tyke Smith. He'll probably have
Smith. Yeah, that's true. I don't know why. I guess because he's been playing more slot.
Yeah, for sure. They move him around so much. It's hard to really call him a safety exclusively. But unfortunately, like you said, it's been a year of injuries for everyone, it seems like, in the NFL, really, but especially for this Bucs secondary. I mean, Mike Edwards and Whitehead are injured, and they've experienced, it's been rough. A lot of time spent on the injured list, a lot of monitoring the injury reports, and that's never a fun thing. But going back to the Brock Bowers thing, man, I don't know.
Yeah, I was about to say something too. I feel like, how do you not utilize someone like that who had a great game last week? And then, this guy's, like a Lamborghini in a trailer park home. You know what I'm saying?
You see that picture of the
And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that Tyke Smith interception was that not on Brock Bowers, or was that?
I think it was the other tight end.
Myers.
It was Mayer. Oh, okay,
Myers.
Yeah. Okay. Because I was about to say, that was a lockdown. That was some lockdown D by Tyke Smith.
That was such a bad look. Great interception. That ball was thrown right to him. Like it was like he was running the route, and that was such a bad throw.
But isn't that what you're supposed to do in coverage? Is run the route?
But yes, but also like.
I feel you though. I do get what you're saying.
I'm trying to think of a way to explain it because yes, if I say he's running the route for him, that's really good coverage.
For sure.
But
I get what you're saying.
It was good coverage, but the ball was thrown
Yeah,
3
behind him.
feet away from the
Right.
the tight end. It was just such an ugly
Yeah,
throw. I love it. I was so happy about it, and
for sure.
yeah,
Really bailed
just
him
did
out
a
there.
great season so
Yeah.
far. But it was just watching all those quarterbacks throw the football was terrifying.
Yeah, all three of them. It could
Mhm.
be rough to watch at some points in the game. But speaking of the offense, I know we kind of hinted at Baker Mayfield's kind of rough performance. He even said himself after the game, he owned it, and credit to Baker. Every time he plays poorly, he's never making excuses. Like, he's up there taking full ownership, which, more power to him. And he even said, like, yeah, I was the worst player offensively this past game, which I don't know if I'd go that far. That's kind of harsh, but I do understand where he's coming from. You're the team captain, you're the quarterback, you have to bear the responsibility because you're supposed to be a leader. And he seems to do a great job of that. Even though he threw a couple of interceptions, one of them was kind of rough. The other one was a little bit more excusable. So yeah, it was a bit of a rough game for Baker, but fortunately, while Bucky Irving, he's had a great season, one of the best running backs in football, the best rookie running back in football. He went down with an injury, unfortunately, early on in the game, but Rachaad White stepped up, came through big time. He had a great game. He had a couple of touchdowns, a receiving one and a rushing one. So Rachaad White and Sean Tucker contributed. They still ran for over 100 yards despite missing Bucky. What are y'all's thoughts on the running game moving forward? I mean, it's been such a strength this year, which is shocking. Like, they have not had that. They have not been able to say that for a long time. So, Mr. Blaine, I'll start with you, man. I know you're not the biggest Rachaad White fan, but he had a pretty good game, yeah?
Listen, man, it's not that I'm not a fan. We talk about this every time. It's not that I'm not a fan of Rachaad White. I don't think he's.
I gotta give you a hard time,
And
though.
I still stand by it. I don't think he's an RB1. I think
For
he's
sure.
a great receiving back, change of pace back. I think that's his calling, and I think that plays along with the improvement from the offensive line. I think the fact that we have that number one back in Bucky Irving has made it easier for Rachaad White to kind of hone in on what he's very, very good at, and I think it's showing. And all the running backs have been a huge part of this season, and I contribute that to them. Kind of all just none of their egos are too big. They're all willing to. Hey, I know Rachaad White is number one on the depth chart, but Bucky comes in and he plays usually more snaps, but you still see them around the same yardage, around the same impact on the game, and it's nice to see you have a group of guys that are willing to work that way and not have egos like some other people that have been on the team and left.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like in especially in today's NFL, it's so grueling, the long 17 game regular season schedule. Like, if you don't have at least two or three running backs that are working together,
Yeah.
playing well, then you're going to struggle because unfortunately that's just, that's the nature of the NFL. Guys are going to go down like Bucky did, unfortunately, because I mean, good Lord, they don't let up on these players. Like, they're like, hey, go run out there and play in the heat or whatever. So it's rough, So I feel like if any running back comes in and has I want all the carries, like, man, big dog, you're going to be on the injured reserve by week 6. Like, if you're not willing to cooperate a little bit. So yeah, but it's great to see. And they really complement each other quite well. And shout out to Liam Cohen. He's done such a great job of scheming these guys and supporting these guys and giving these guys more, gadget plays, more of the two running back sets. That's been so much fun to watch. He just
really has been.
Yeah, he's done such a phenomenal job of just setting these guys up for success, putting them in a position to succeed. So as much as you can attribute it to the offensive line, you can put the blame or put the good vibes on Bucky Irving. You can also put it on Liam Cohen as well. So, but Mr. Treek, how about you, man? What are your thoughts on the running game moving forward? How encouraging was it to see Rachaad White and Sean Tucker continue to be really good?
Really nice. I mean, this is something we discussed, I feel like, during the offseason. This is what we were kind of hoping. It turns out to be is like that kind of three-headed monster. Obviously, with one of those monsters unfortunately going down. But, the fact that, Sean Tucker was able to step up. And you have to remind me, I remember, I forgot what week it was, but I remember Sean Tucker took off on fantasy. I forgot what week it was. But I remember a bunch.
It was the Saints game. He had over like 100. What was 147?
Yeah. So I just
player of the week.
It's just that, our running game has finally become relevant, and every single one of them brings something special to the table. It's just really nice also to see, how we're able to just kind of, really take advantage of our kind of, our pass game with Rachaad White as well. Hell, Sean Tucker, I mean, he's looking great out there. It's just hard, to kind of throw three guys in there at once to try to make sure they all get the same amount of, time of possession or whatever, when, they all got something special. And it's been working fine with Bucky and Rachaad, which, I don't blame anyone for not getting Sean Tucker out there, but it is exciting to see him out there. I mean, even that long run he had, almost getting that touchdown. I mean, he's a big body. He kind of reminds me of a little bit of a bowling ball. I mean, he puts his shoulder down there, so
For sure.
he doesn't go down easy either. So yeah, overall, just super, super exciting. I mean, this is something we've been missing for the last couple of years. It's a threatening run game, and it's honestly, it just makes me very happy. I'll leave it at that.
It's a breath of fresh air. It's just such a remarkable turnaround. I think Liam Cohen's probably going to be up for, I don't know if they have an official Coordinator of the Year award, but he'll certainly be mentioned just almost exclusively because of the run game turning around so much. And that's really impressive. It's really been fantastic to see. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, the Falcons, they lost to the Vikings. Vikings are a great team. Like, I'm not gonna, poo-poo on the Falcons for losing to Minnesota, but how they've been struggling a little bit as of late. They kind of had a nice little run there in the middle of the season, but it seems like coming down the stretch, they're starting to kind of, Kirko chains or whatever you want to call him, is he's struggling out there. Michael Penix is biting at his heels. So I'm really interested to see how the Falcons, the rest of the season plays out. Mr. Tariq, what are your thoughts? Do you think the Bucs can really just kind of run away with this division if the Falcons continue to struggle like this?
I think so. I mean, I feel like they're really or I'd probably say the main matchup that, the Falcons got ahead of them is, their second last game against the Commanders. I mean, I'm curious to see how this Raiders-Falcon game goes as well, especially little Desmond Ridder homecoming as well. But I mean, we'll see how that goes. But
is that the next? Yeah.
What do you say?
Ritter's Revenge. It's like the Riddler's Revenge.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. That was lame. Sorry.
Nerd.
Anyways, it should be an interesting, last couple of weeks for both of us, the Bucs and the Falcons. But I don't know. This one, the fact that the Vikings took the Falcons down gave us a little bump up, to first place now. I feel like we're just going to have to hold it now. But hell, this game against the Chargers is going to be really big for us too. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be a close fight, honestly. Every single game for both of us really, really matters.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really afford to lose too many games for either team because, I mean, they both kind of have such easy rest of the years. As much as, like you said, the Raiders are kind of weird, the Ridder portion of it. But it's just, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how they can continue to take advantage of maybe some weaker opponents, or if they maybe make a quarterback change, if Kirk Cousins continues to turn the ball over and struggle. So I don't know. It's certainly a storyline to monitor. But Mr. Blaine, how about you, man? What are your thoughts on the Falcons? They lost to the Vikings and the rest of their schedule, how the division shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's easy to forget about the Saints at this point, but there's realistically, I mean, maybe not anymore with Derek Carr being done for the season from what it appears. But there's a world where the Saints go 9-8 still. Like, do I think that wins the division? No. I think that Tampa can lose one more game, but then we'll have to win out.
Yeah,
that's just how it feels at this point. I think that Atlanta is having issues. I think the age is kicking in to Kirk Cousins, and it's really showing that his lack of mobility and his arm strength is just not there anymore. So it's going to be interesting to see how soon they put Penix in, because I don't think if you're in the heat of a playoff race, because there's still a playoff team, could be a playoff team at this point. Like, it's one game. You're not going to go to a rookie in that situation, even if Cousins is struggling.
Right.
He's the big-time quarterback. He's got the contract. He's got the years. He's got the playoff experience. Mm-hmm. So you've got all this going for him. But realistically, I think Penix is a better player skill set wise, or not skill set wise. Let me rephrase that. He's a better attribute-wise player. Like he's got all the skills to be really good. He's just not there yet.
I get you.
So it's going to be hard for me to say they're going to put Penix in at any point unless they lose 3 more games and Tampa wins the next 3. Then I think we see Penix. I think we're going to see Atlanta struggle with Cousins, especially this week, because I don't know how good this game is going to go for the Bucs, but I think Atlanta has a chance to win. So if they win, then it's going to be like they're back in first. So it's a weird division. It gives me anxiety and heartburn.
Oh goodness!
It's such a weird division, man.
Not heartburn. I hope that doesn't continue, my friend. But yeah, no, I feel you though. It's a weird division. It's very up and down. Like who knows what to make of the Kirk Cousins. Yeah, and you got to think if you're the Falcons, not just this season, but moving forward. Like you invested a first-round pick in Michael Penix. If you throw him into the fire and say, "Hey, man, we need you to win these games like right now. Like we're in playoff contention. Like pedal to the metal." Then, oh man, that's a lot of pressure to put on someone, especially someone who's still trying to get his bearings in the NFL. Like his first start could be like a playoff implications game. Like
it's a scary thing to think about, but it also if you're an Atlanta fan, it kind of at this point it looks like Penix is your guy next year. And I don't think that anyone was expecting it to be that quick.
Yeah.
I think we were expecting at least in my opinion, I was expecting 2 years of Cousins before
2 years and then
Penix gets in.
Right.
But at this point, I don't think there's a question to be had whether Penix is the guy next year. I think Cousins is going to be a very expensive backup, and that's just how it's going to go. So it's almost like, do you want to get him that experience at this point? Like, you're not going to make a deep playoff run. You're just not. So why I see kind of from both ends on being like, well, let's just play him and see what happens. Sure. Because if you lose it for us, look, we weren't going to make a run anyway. Like it's okay. But I know that's a lot of pressure. I know that GMs and coaches probably aren't looking at it that way, but from the outside looking in, that Atlanta's not going to make noise in the offseason, or in the playoffs. So yeah, why not try it?
Yeah, it's a tough thing to give a guy that much money and have to bench him, mid-season or towards the end of the season. Yeah, I mean it's a brutal kind of development. I think the Falcons were expecting more, and I think most of us were too. But hey, it's good for the Bucs. It's good for the Bucs that Kirk is struggling because they're the dirty birds. We don't want to see them win. But on a more positive note, we've kind of been taking a dump on the Falcons. Player of the games, or players of the game. My apologies. On offense, I went ahead and picked Rachaad White, but I don't know if y'all disagree or anything. I went Rachaad. I think Jalen McMillan had an outstanding game too, but I think Rachaad White was my pick for the offense. And then on defensive side of the ball, we already mentioned his big interception, Tyke Smith. He just had an outstanding performance there. And he really stepped up because the Bucs really needed some safety help. So do y'all have any other shout outs you want to give to any other players, or maybe you disagree? What are your all thoughts on the players of the game?
Yeah, I'm cool with both of those. I personally had McMillan just because of they both had 2 touchdowns. So I think either way, there was really no wrong answer. Like there was those 2 players. If you had anyone else, it's just okay. But on defense, I had Merriweather.
Yeah, he played great too.
Just because Smith played very, very good. It's not taking anything away from Smith at all. He's a very close second, in my opinion. But Merriweather came in off of being signed from I believe it was Detroit's practice squad, and was instantly like, oh, wow, I'm kind of enjoying watching him play football. He made a few big tackles, should have had an interception. It was a great play. All around, he was my go-to guy, my favorite guy to watch on the defense, and I think is why I picked him.
Yeah, I mean, both of them really, really fun to watch. But Mr. Streak, how about you, man? Did you have any other maybe hidden gems or anything you wanted to shout out?
No, definitely no hidden gems when it comes to player of the game.
Fair enough.
That's a big gem calling your name, saying, "Hey, I'm the player of the game." But no, I'm gonna have to go probably. I'm gonna go McMillan just because it's always been about our guys like Rachaad White and Mike Evans and like that in the past. And I mean both touchdowns of his were really nice. I mean, the first one, beautiful route, beautiful throw to him.
Yep.
And then second one, I mean, I feel like no one was really expecting that. The Raiders defense wasn't either because, he was wide open once he got that bad boy. So, and then on the defense, I'm just have to go Tyke Smith. I feel like, I mean, he's been doing a pretty solid job overall. I mean, we drafted this guy, somewhat kind of, in the earlier rounds. So for a reason, of course, and he showed out, especially when we needed it. It was kind of a momentum changer as well because they were kind of getting a little bit close to it. And I gotta say, I mean, both tight ends, that was it, Mayer. He's a pretty. I mean, that guy could be a pretty solid, tight end one on another team. Honestly,
Yeah.
I feel like he's a little bit under the shadow, bro.
Real early draft picks.
Mayers was a second-round pick, and Bowers was a first.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's kind of tough. I don't really understand that from a roster construction standpoint, but at the same time, like you just got to get good playmakers. Like they're both good receivers, I suppose. But
they're different types of tight ends too. Bowers could almost play wide receiver if we're being
right. Yeah, he's stupid athletic. If he was if Jaden Daniels wasn't having the season that he was having, like Bowers could probably pretty easily be the offensive rookie of the year, and he still might end up as the offensive rookie of the year, deservedly so.
It's a 3-horse race for that, in my opinion.
Right, yeah, with Nix and Daniels and Bowers for sure. They did a great job of locking Bowers down though. And hey, Tyke Smith, speaking of him, he was from Georgia. They shared that little.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good point.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I don't know.
That's why he was locked down. Tyke Smith knew all of his tells.
Dog versus dog.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Figured it out, brother. That's the key.
Dog versus dog. But if you're looking for the Tyke Smith of wardrobe upgrades, if you're looking for some really solid gear to rock, maybe while you're watching Tyke Smith get an interception next weekend. But head to shop.rblrsports.com. We've got some really great gear there for all your Tampa Bay sports needs. Definitely check it out. We'll even give you a promo code because, the Bucs won this past weekend. Got to celebrate. That's Cannon, CANNONS. Type it in and get 10% off your entire order. After all, Christmas is around the corner, so you can pick yourself up a Christmas present or pick a family member up a Christmas present. We'd really appreciate it. But moving on to the second half of our episode, they got the Chargers this week. Like we've said before, Chargers are tough, man. The Chargers are a really good team. We could talk about Justin Herbert, and I know that Justin Herbert can be a bit of a polarizing. Well, I don't want to say polarizing, but some people seem to hate him, some people seem to love him. I just think he's really good. Like I don't necessarily think he's the best or anything, but he's up there. So what are y'all's opinions on Justin Herbert? Like, is he top 5? Is he top 10? Where do you kind of put him in the upper echelon of quarterbacks? Mr. Tariq, I'll start with you, man. What are your thoughts on Justin Herbert?
Oh man, I mean, I've never been super huge about the guy, but I've never had any reason to hate the guy either.
Right,
I mean,
no, for sure.
Yeah, good guy. I mean, the guy can, the kid can sling it. I mean, I always root for the, these younger quarterbacks. I always wish them all the best, of course, because it ain't easy to adjust to the NFL as well. But, sheesh, man. I mean, I don't really think much about kind of ranking wise. I guess you could maybe sprinkle him in the top 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably just say sprinkle him in. I mean, because once you go top 5, then we're like, all right, this guy's the real deal. You know what I'm saying? This is a kind of a firm, like, all right, this guy's a game changer or something. But I just feel like, maybe if he, had more weapons or something like that, he would maybe stand out more to others. Right. But
good point.
The guy's got a bright future, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Ladd McConkey is really good, but other than that, it gets real thin. Quentin Johnson was supposed to be kind of the guy, and he has unfortunately struggled with drops and all that. But hopefully, he can turn it around. But like you said, he can be a difference maker at some points. So I'd say he's definitely top 10. He's closer to being top 5 than I think some people give him credit for, but definitely solidified top 10. But Mr. Blaine, I see you're an Oregon State guy. So what are your thoughts on the former?
Yeah, I was going to say, it must be nice not to have a reason to hate the guy. He wrecked us all the time, and it sucked. But I will give it to him. I don't know that I can put him top 5 yet, but I agree wholeheartedly with what you said, where he's definitely top 10. And he's closer to top 5. So I'd put him top 8. A random number. I'd put him top 8.
For sure.
He's a good quarterback. I love to watch him play at this level. I do think it sucks that he doesn't have talent around him this year. But we got to remember he's had some talent around him. He had Eckler. He had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, who kind of is a non-factor. But when he's not hurt, it was a good
for sure. Yeah, he's a good wide receiver. Yeah.
So it's like it's not that he's never had talent. It's just that I don't think that the coaching has been great around him. And now we're seeing, in my opinion, a good coach. I know a lot of people have issues with Harbaugh, but I think he's a good coach.
Right.
And I think we'll see Herbert become a top 5 quarterback in the next couple of years.
Yep, agreed. I will say I might like, because you go with Mahomes, Lamar, Burrow, and Josh Allen, whatever order you want to choose, and then after that it gets kind of interesting. It gets kind of fun. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that all shakes out. But Harbaugh, like you said, he's a great coach. I think the main issue that, at least myself, I don't want to speak for other people, but just the cheating aspect of it.
Hey, you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, baby.
For sure. Yeah, that's the slogan that they use, but
everybody does it. It's just who gets caught.
Oh, right, for sure. Yeah, I don't know. It's still gross. He's also a Michigan guy. Like, I don't like Michigan. Like, they're a blue blood school, and forget all those big schools. He should go Bulls. You know what I'm saying? But he's a really great coach. He's done some great stuff with the Chargers. And speaking of that great stuff, I mean, my goodness, their defense has just been so stinking good this year. It's been really, really ridiculous. They almost beat Kansas City. I mean, every team in the NFL seemingly has almost beat Kansas City, but it was a really close game, really outstanding. Both quarterbacks really wheeling and dealing. But the Chargers defense, I mean, my goodness, you just kind of look at their overall metrics and, top 10 in rush defense grade, top 3 in coverage, which you look at that secondary, and Derwin James, great safety. But after that, I mean, they just have a bunch of interchangeable parts. It's a lot of guys that can kind of come in and out. So it's been really, really impressive. 3rd lowest EPA per pass allowed. They're also pretty good against the rush in the top half of the league. So do y'all expect the Bucs to struggle offensively against this Chargers defense? Mr. Blaine, I'll start with you, man. What are your thoughts about this Bucs offense picking up against this Chargers defense?
My biggest fear is Bucky going to be 100%? And I think at this point in the season, no one's really 100%, but is he going to be 100% for a game this late in the season, I guess is what I mean by that. He's had an injury the last 3 games now. He's been hurt and had to miss a little bit of time in each game. Mm-hmm. Every week it feels like, we don't find out till Saturday that Bucky Irving's going to play. So it's been, which means he's tough. Like he's a tough guy. He's not taking any games off. He probably could have taken any of the last 3 games off, and we've been like, all right, yeah, I get it. He deserves it. But I think it shows you how tough he is. I don't know if I want him testing that against this front 7. No. This front 7 is scary, man. And then to have their defensive backs, like you said, their best corner right now is it Tahib Stills or something like that?
The
dude is no one's heard of him until he started playing in LA, and we're like, whoa, what is this guy doing? Like, he's playing really good football. Derwin James, a stud. Like, there's nothing you can't say anything bad about him as a football player. So it's I think at this point we'd be dumb to not think they're going to struggle a little bit.
Yeah, right. No, that's a good point. I mean, it's kind of an easy slam dunk kind of thing, but I mean, it's Mr. Treek. How about you, man? Maybe you've got an alternate insight. Khalil Mack has also had a really I don't want to say a renaissance season, because he's always been pretty solid, but he's managed to stay healthy this year, which is huge.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on this Chargers defense and how the Bucs can do against them?
Yeah, this one's going to be real interesting, just because, I mean, this is going to be a big turn of events compared to the last kind of games we've been playing. I mean, this is a completely different ballgame, especially on the defensive side. I mean, our offense in the past has really been our main hope, to win games, because our defense has been very weird at times, if not all the time. Yeah, if not all the time. So I am curious to see though how our run game has always looked really good. I mean, this season it's improved a lot from the past, so it's finally, I guess, going to be a real test. And I do want to kind of piggyback off of what Zach was saying about Bucky. I mean, it makes me think, I don't know, is it worth it to kind of go all in, and meaning kind of play Bucky against this Chargers team, or you kind of just maybe take it easy or something, or maybe just kind of limit him a little bit, because I mean, I guess I'm open also seeing Sean Tucker out there as well, but it's not even it's not even just the run game. I mean, it's also just our offensive line going against, their front seven as well. I mean, especially, Luke Gadecki going against some of these guys on the side, those defensive ends, Tristan Wirfs, just all of them. Seriously, Ben Bredesen, Graham Barton. Let's see how, how he does against a true tough, front seven again. So to summarize it all, this one's going to be a real battle. It could be real ugly. I'm praying not, but I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. This could be kind of those quick pass kind of games for Baker Mayfield.
Right. Yeah, and that's the good news is that, Baker and Liam Cohen, they love that. Like he has one of the lowest time to throws, the lowest average depth of targets in the NFL. Like him and Mahomes and Kirk Cousins kind of battle it out for the bottom most of the time. And they've been really successful with it throughout the season. So I think that, they'll lean on that quite a bit. They'll lean on the run game because, as much as the Chargers have a solid run defense, that is a bit weaker just because they're so good against the pass. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. And yeah, I'll be really curious to see if maybe I don't want to call it a punt game because that sounds, defeatist, but yeah, maybe they do sit Bucky down. They say, hey man, like you haven't been right for a while. Like just take a week. This is going to be a tough game. Like just take a break. We need you for the stretch. Like that wouldn't be surprising. That would be kind of, I don't want to say it would be smart because then you're not waving the white flag or anything because Rachaad White and Sean Tucker, they could still win you a game. They could still go out and play really well. So yeah, that'll be kind of a storyline to monitor moving forward for sure.
With that being said, too, this almost feels like a Sean Tucker type of game. He's our power back kind of.
Absolutely.
This feels a lot more like that kind of game that we need to play. So I would almost prefer them to sit Bucky this week because I would rather have Bucky healthy for the next 3 games, I guess, after this, as opposed to have Bucky for all 4, but have 50% of Bucky for the last 3.
Right.
So I'd rather I want to see a Sean Tucker type game this week, and I hope that someone can see the same thing that we see.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's tough. Like we saw it with the Chris Godwin thing. Unfortunately, it's hard to tell these guys, hey, you're not playing this week. None of them are gonna just like kind of take okay, I'll go sit down. Like, they're competitors. They haven't gotten to this point in their life by being complacent. So
Exactly.
It's tough to sit a guy down like that. But you have to save a guy from himself. You have to save a player from their own kind of overconfidence, if you will. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle Bucky Irving this weekend. But we've been kind of negative to start this second half of the episode, so I wanted to focus on maybe some favorable matchups for the Bucs, or maybe just some interesting matchups for the Bucs. Either side of the ball works. I'll kick things off. I think Mike Evans could have a big day because as much as the Chargers secondary has been really good, they haven't faced Mike Evans. I love Mike. I think he's just been kind of petering along, kind of getting his feet wet and getting back into the groove of things. I know that 1,000 yards is probably out of reach, unfortunately, for him. He just missed
127 yards a game, boys.
Oh man. Right, that's got to start this week. But Mike has been, he's been kind of just slowly but surely settling into this offense again. And Jalen McMillan too. Like he had a great game, obviously, this past weekend. Maybe him and Baker kind of establish even more of a connection moving forward. So that's kind of my pro matchup for the Bucs. But Mr. Blaine, how about you, man? What are some matchups that you're going to monitor this weekend against the Chargers?
I'm struggling to find positive ones.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to be negative. I have tried being positive more this season, and it's been really hard. Right now, my biggest thing is Baker against the zone, and LA has played very good zone this year, and Baker has seemed to struggle at differentiating the zones. And oh God, it hurts to say that so much.
Oh man, I can tell you're struggling.
It's hard, but he's having issues against the zone this year, and it's hard to see that not happen again this week. So I think that's going to be an important matchup to watch. If Baker can go and throw no interceptions, I think we have a legitimate shot at this game. But after watching, especially the bad pick downfield, which again I think had to do with the offensive line just as much as him, but I won't go there. But yeah, I think that's going to be a big key is if he can pick apart the zones and not get tricked into throwing interceptions, I think that we have a solid shot.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't throw a pick, like the Bucs might win this game.
Yeah.
I don't think
Agreed.
that's super controversial or anything. But Mr. Treek, how about you, man? What are your thoughts on this? On these some matchups between these two teams?
Well, I mean, I kind of have to agree with the Zach on how many positive or favorable matchups we really have in this game compared to ones that are concerning. But if anything, I'd probably go our D line versus their offensive line, specifically our pass rush game. I mean, we were talking about it right now with Baker Mayfield. Sometimes just not being the Baker we know, and I feel like it's just because the pressure and all that, and sometimes you end up holding it too long, and I mean that 2nd and 1, that's what it was right before the end of the first half. That was just super ugly. But what I'm hoping for is we're able to do something like that. I mean, because as much as I'm trying to get as many points as possible, we got to stop Justin Herbert as much as to the best of our ability, and we got to disrupt the pass game as much as possible. I mean, this is kind of the same thing with the Raiders situation. All eyes are on Brock Bowers. Now, in this case, I feel like all eyes are really on Ladd McConkey. So minus him, I mean, we focus on that, and and also just seeing just overall how the run game is. I feel like they don't really exactly have a true, RB1. I don't know. Tell me how y'all feel about that, but it's just more kind of disrupting their pass game.
Yeah, I mean, J.K. Dobbins is sort of the RB1, but
Mhm.
he's had so many injury issues. It's just been kind of tough to see. But yeah, I love the pass rush inclusion, especially on the interior. I think that Vita Vea and Kalijah Cansey against that interior Chargers offensive line, because they got Slater and Alt as sort of the bookends. They kind of remind you of the Bucs a little bit in that regard, because they're both really, really good. Like Slater and Alt aren't really going to give you too much, but that interior might be a little bit more leaky, especially if they have to deal with Vita Vea and Kalijah Cansey. So it'll be interesting to see how that progresses, especially because Herbert, he's dealing with, I mean, everyone's dealing with injuries, but he's got his own little ankle injury. So, maybe his mobility is a little limited. So maybe if Vita Vea is coming after him, like he's not able to escape the pocket as much as he normally would be. So that was something that I wanted to kind of talk about a little bit for sure. But before we get into the end of this episode, we got a couple of segments. If you've listened before, you know what's coming. We've got some over-unders. And Mr. Tariq, I believe it is your turn for the over-unders. So give them to us, my man. What you got?
Absolutely. We'll start off with over under 1.5 passing touchdowns by Baker Mayfield. What are we doing, Zach? We thinking over?
I'm going over. I think he throws 2.
Okay.
All
2.
right.
All
okay.
Right. I'll also go over. I think he has a solid game. I'm not going to go like crazy and say he has 3 or 4, but I think 2 is manageable. Like we said before, whether he throws any interceptions, whether he has any turnovers,
different story. I also think there might be one of those.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of the tough thing. But yeah, I think he'll hopefully get his. He'll hopefully get some touchdowns in there, and I think 2 is a manageable number for him for sure.
Right on. All right, this one's a little interesting just because I feel like we got to kind of change it up. And, as I was, thinking about our beloved special teams today for my, podcast intro, I thought, why don't we get a little special teams prop out there as well? So,
special teams prop.
Yeah, yes, sir. So what are we thinking? Over, under 6.5 kicking points. Chase McLaughlin.
Ooh.
Zach, I'll let you go first, my man. This is a tough one.
Oh God! See, okay, so, oh no, I have to go under because of my score prediction, and I said that Baker's going to throw 2 touchdowns, so I realistically have to go under here.
Right.
It's not possible with my score prediction, so I'm going to go under. But I could very well see it being over. Like I wouldn't be shocked if it were over.
Yeah, I'm going to go under as well. And like Zach said, it's mostly because I went over on the Mayfield touchdowns. So I'm going to go under as well. But this is a good one. This is a good one. It's always so tough to predict the kicking stuff, especially because it's kind of strength on strength. The Bucs offense is really good. The Chargers defense is really good. On the other side of the ball, I don't want to say weakness on weakness, but it's kind of the weaker two sides. So there could be a lot of field goals in this game. You never know. But I'm going to go under. That's just my gut reaction. Like, I think the Bucs are going to take advantage of what little red zone opportunities they may get. So, I'm going to go under on the kicker points.
Likewise, I'm going under just because, I was also going over on the Baker passing touchdowns as well. Plus, for the love of God, you can't, I feel like, there's always people trying to, say, oh, this is a lock of the year or something. No way in hell can anyone predict, how many, kicking points is one going to get, just because, anything can happen. So I figured, just make it a little bit spicy, make it a little bit fun, just because I feel like we're always doing those, typical passing, rushing, and all that. So, plus, shout out to our special teams as well.
Absolutely. I love it. At least it wasn't like something punting related, like maybe like net yards and punts or whatever for Browning. That would have been tough. I would have
just quit. I would have just hung up right now.
I would have just total shot in the dark. Like, who the heck knows? That is whatever the opposite of a lock of the year, like maybe the I don't even know, but that would have been tough. But we're almost.
Or we could do like an over under, like 2.5. How many times the camera, gets Todd Bowles in his iconic straight face.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. The classic Bowles, just like no expression shot is always. It's always
the
fun.
resting Bowl face.
That's right. He's as stoic as ever. He's just ever the stone face. He'd be a great poker player, like if that's how he is at the poker table. But before we let y'all go, before we head on out, I want to get some predictions in because that's the whole fun part of the episode. You got to predict who wins and by what score. So, Mr. Tariq, I'll let you get started. Who you got winning and by how much?
I think this is going to be a battle in one way, but unfortunately, I just don't think the Buccaneers are going to be able to get the win. This is also a much-needed win as well for the Chargers. Both of these teams are fighting, for a spot in the playoffs as well. So, and especially after, not going against a real defense, I wouldn't be surprised if our Bucs get shaken up a little bit. But I do think that maybe we keep it close. But in the end, I'm going 23-21 Chargers win.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I got the Chargers winning as well. 20-14. For all the same reasons. Like it's intense. Like both these teams fighting for playoff positions, like you said. So both teams way too much to play for this to be like a fall flat game for either of them. So I'm excited to see how it plays out because it should be pretty intense. But Mr. Blaine, how about you, man? Who you got winning and by how much?
I got the Chargers winning 28-14. I don't think we're going to have the coverage in the middle of the field to stop. They seem to really like Palmer in the middle of the field.
It's a great point.
I don't think we're going to have the coverage to stop Palmer in the middle of the field. So
right.
I know Ladd McConkey's had a good season and Quentin Johnston's their second receiver, but I think Palmer is going to be the one that kind of hurts us this game.
Interesting. Yeah, it's tough to watch teams just continuously pick that part of the field apart because unfortunately, Levante David, he's great in a lot of areas, but this year it's been a bit of a step back in terms of pass coverage. And also he's got KJ Britt or fill in the blank with whatever backup / practice squad guy you want to think about. So it's been tough over the middle of the field for sure. That's a great point. Unfortunately, negative Nancy's on this show. My goodness, we all got the
tough, man. We haven't had a game like this in a minute that we're all like, yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah. It's tough. The Chargers are really good. They've got a really good squad, but hopefully we're all wrong. But regardless of what the result is, we'll be coming back at you next week. So if you want to keep up with us and make sure you're, updated to the date, just give us a follow at RBLR Bucs or at RBLR Sports because we've got some really phenomenal content coming out across our channel. All things Tampa Bay sports related, we've always got you covered. But we'll see y'all next week. We'll be back here, for better or for worse, whether it's a win or a loss. So we really appreciate y'all for tuning in and appreciate my co-host for help making my job easy. And as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.